Hello and welcome to WJTS in.form. I'm your host, Bill Potter. There's an organization called CEO. It may not be what you think of. It's Churches Embracing Offenders. And we're going to find out about that program in this edition of WJTS in.form. Joining me in the studio is Bob Vogler. And Bob is the Client Support Coordinator for CEO. All right, and we also have with us Megan Durlauf. Megan is actually the Treatment Programs Facilitator at the Du Bois County Corrections Center, but she is a CEO board member. Now, when we say CEO, I know a lot of people think of businesses,
right.
Okay? But really, CEO, Churches Embracing Offenders. Right. What is the program?
The program is a program that takes an offender, and we have decided to work with offenders in the work release program who have a history of reoffending. It's sort of the revolving door syndrome, if you will. And what this program does is it takes that offender where he or she is and focuses on their spiritual, physical, emotional, and social situation. And in this particular case, the spiritual is the thing that's really added. And the idea is through a Bible-based study program, which could last 26 to 52 weeks, to encourage that person to learn the skills and to find the resources, including a spiritual family where you have support and interest and also accountability. To stop that person from that revolving door so that they can actually stop that and become a participating, active member in society. That's the real purpose of it.
Why does the cycle continue? Why do they go back? Is that part of what your organization does, is try to identify that?
Well,
I think that at community corrections, we see this revolving door, the recidivism rate is what we call it. And it's a lot of times because those needs that Bob mentioned aren't being met. And so this program is a program that helps to meet those needs, to help keep people from coming back into the system. And what's unique about this program is that it ties the clients in with a church family to meet the spiritual needs that maybe weren't being met in other programs.
Okay. What churches are involved? Is it one church or is it multiple churches? Is it one denomination?
right. That's one of the things that I really like myself about the program is that right now we have 8 churches in the county, and we're trying to even build from that. We have 8 churches right now who have active, we call them church committees. And I will mention those churches, by the way. They are St. Paul's in Hayesville, St. Joe's in Jasper, St. James in Holland. And by the way, that church is the church that is our 501c3 entity.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to make a donation to this program, which we actually wouldn't mind.
Okay, sure.
That would be the place that it would go. And we really appreciate that church for stepping up to be able to do that, to afford us that. And also donors can get a tax-deductible gift or donation to this program. The Christian Church of Jasper is another church, Holy Family in Jasper, the First Baptist Church in Jasper, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Huntingburg, and the Central Christian Church in Huntingburg are currently having active church committees that will work with these offenders. And we're actually working, I think, with probably 5 or 6 more churches right now to increase that, our capability to deal with some of the people who are in this work release program.
And this is not a program to get them work, because that's being done through the correction center, Is that correct?
Right, this is more of a transitional component. So as the clients are transitioning from work release to the community, which they all do, we want to make sure that there are different supports in place to continue addressing their needs and to continue helping, whether that's employment-based, whether it's financial, whether it's substance abuse, mental health, and just pairing people with the resources that they need, but also maintaining that accountability through the church committee as they release and as they transition back into the community.
Okay, now the word offenders can scare some people.
Yeah.
Are we dealing with hardened criminals? But I guess if they're on work release, I don't want to say they're a lighter criminal, because a criminal is still a criminal, but what sort of offenders typically?
Primarily work release and community corrections in general. We're dealing with felons and misdemeanors, but people who have committed criminal offenses. But I mean, we've had murderers in work release, and we've had people who have gotten driving while suspended. So even though there is a wide range of the amount of the people that we would deal with, primarily in work release you see substance abusing offenders, theft, burglary. CEO though does have some specific requirements that the clients would need to meet in terms of being involved in the program, and I can let Bob speak more to that, but the point of it is, regardless of whether they have an attempted murder charge or a driving while suspended charge, both of those people are going to return to the community, this community, Jasper, Indiana, Du Bois County, Indiana. And so that's the important part of this piece, is that would you rather that person have a transitional component in place for them for accountability, or would you rather them just be left out on the street to kind of fend for themselves?
One of the ways to look at these offenders, and our board did think about who we should target to try to work with. And so the board came to a conclusion that we should try to focus on people in work release. Number one, they are working. They have income. Number two, they are generally nonviolent. That's not totally true, but in general, many people in work release are not violent offenders. What we've learned in our work so far with people who we have come in contact at work release, many of these individuals have come in their lives, many of them are in their 20s, I think. A lot of them are in their 20s, some a little older, but most of them in their 20s. And their life has been extraordinarily dysfunctional. Amazing amount of abuse and neglect that they've suffered as children. And when they grew up, their ways of coping with that family situation turned into what ended up getting them into trouble. Many times it's alcohol and drugs. I think that's those two issues. And alcohol, I don't know if it's mostly alcohol or not. It's there a lot, and drug abuse. Also, what we've run into, the first 6 individuals I did the assessment of, 4 of those had ADHD as children, and they still had it as adults. Untreated now. And a person with ADHD is going to be a problem person as a child or have a lot of problems, and as an adult. And without proper treatment, that will assist them in that recidivism. It'll actually make it easier to reoffend because of the impulsivity and the poor judgment that often is used by persons who have this ADHD. Also, what we ran into so far, we've dealt with about 13 or 14 individuals up to now. Many of them have health problems. Some of them have had injuries. Many of them have dental problems. Many of them have mental health problems. Many of them haven't seen a doctor in years. So if you envision an offender who is going to be released today, okay, and these folks don't have a big bunch of clothes either. I mean, they walk out the door. Many of them are actually homeless. And when I talk to them and I ask them their address, you know, my assessment that I do, they give me the work release address. When they give me that, I know that they're homeless. So where is that person going to go that day? If plans and programs haven't been in place there for that individual to try to find a place to live. And by the way, in our county, that is a huge, huge issue. I don't know the answer to it, but our board is beginning to think about that issue of homelessness or affordable housing, maybe that whole idea. I think we may even be talking about it at our next board meeting, actually. So without the plan or without some kind of assistance coming from somebody, this individual, and I think this will be true of all of us as well, we walk out that door, we do not know where to go, so where do we go? We will go to somebody we know, somebody we're comfortable with, and often with our individuals that we're dealing with here, the people they are comfortable with are people who were using alcohol in excess and drugs and so on. And that leads then to the recidivism that we're concerned about. So what we hope, by getting involved with these individuals before they're released from work release, that we, through these church committees, can have something in place for them so that day, when that day comes, when they walk out that door, they've got something going. That's what our plan is.
A little different foundation.
A little
what
different.
They've led their life through.
That
a little
is
more
correct.
solid foundation.
Yeah, and there is one thing about CEO that I've had people question me about. We do not take the place of AA. We do not take the place of NA. We do not take the place of the drug court program. We do not appeal to the judge to alter the individual sentence. We do none of that. And our church committees hold the offender accountable to what he or she agreed to do when they entered the program. And I'll give you an example. There was a lady who had addiction to pain medication. Her church committee was very well aware of that, and one day she came to one of her meetings and she told them that over the past weekend she had to go to the ER. And she told them what happened, and one of those church committee members wondered about that. Actually wondered if he or she, I forget who it was, if she or he could believe what that offender told them. So that church committee actually has the power given to them by the offender to actually check at the ER. It has actually a release of information signed by the offender, and so she took that to the ER and asked if she could see the record of that person's visit to the ER on that previous weekend. And what do you think she found? What she found was not what the offender told them, but that she had gone there in an effort to get pain medication. So what happened in that case, the next time the offender came to that church committee meeting, she was confronted with that reality. And she tried to lie and she tried to, avoid that, but they held her accountable. They could have ended her involvement with that group right then, but they decided, since that's not unusual for people with addictions to relapse, that they decided to give her another chance. But, she's on notice now, and she's so far been doing great since that incident. But that church committee does not make life easier. It doesn't sweep things under the rug. It does not intend to do any of that. It's to have the person deal with their reality. And sadly, many people with addictions, and when you talk with them, and I'm sure you do this too, Megan, in the program out there, they know about denial or lying or avoiding the truth. They know what you're talking about if you're not judging them particularly. So to hold them accountable and to get them to honestly tell you is tricky, because they're afraid many times that if they do tell you the reality, they're going to get in further trouble. We all understand that. But we have to work through that with these church committees. And by the way, I did want to say too, every person in our program, including Megan as a board member, is a volunteer. Every one of us has gone through the training for CEO. And one of the big issues with that training has to do with confidentiality and accountability. So, for example, if we were a church committee meeting right now with an offender and that person's ride did not show up, we probably could not give that person a ride. We might be able to if two of us could go do that, but there's too much liability
Sure.
if one of us did that, especially if it's the opposite sex type of thing. Right. No way can we do that. So there are a lot of training aspects to being a volunteer with this, and I like that we've had that training. And by the way, our trainer is a fellow named Scott Burgess. Scott works in Evansville for a medical firm of some kind. I don't recall the name of it, but he lives right here in the Holy Family area. And he's our trainer. He's trained all of us. He trained me and probably trained you too, Megan. I don't know, but yeah. So it's a volunteer program, multifaceted church organizations. We're not trying to convert them to our particular faith, but it is faith-based, and it's actually based on the Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes, and the one, how to treat people. Mm-hmm. And the one that we're obviously focused on was when Jesus said, "Did you visit me when I was in prison?" That's the idea, the basis of this program. And so this program, by the way, came to Du Bois County because of Donnie Lampert. He attended one day in 2013, I think, maybe about 2 years ago, the Du Bois County Ministerial Association meeting. And he approached them about what he had noticed as a deputy sheriff and as a sheriff, the recidivism rate. People he's known for years, he keeps seeing them coming back into jail. And he wondered with the ministers that he met with that day whether or not the churches could come up with something that might actually help with that. So there was interest in that group, in that idea. And Charla Greaves, the pastor of St. Lutheran Church in Hayesville, contacted Carl Waning and asked him to look into that. Carl, who had already been working in a ministry connected to Branchville Prison in Perry County, knew a guy from that who was in CEO in Vanderburgh County. And so he made contact, and then we grew from that. But the CEO program, as far as I know, started in Allen County in Fort Wayne. Evansville adopted about 12 or 13 years ago. And then now we're adopting it, and some other communities are adopting it too. Is that what you've heard, Megan? So in Evansville, some of the judges in Evansville actually do alter sentences of offenders because they completed the CEO program. Now, obviously, we're not attempting that at this point because we don't have enough of a track record yet. But in Evansville, that's true. It's interesting.
Well, let's hope that your program can really continue to go, and to do that, you're going to need some contributions, I'm sure.
Right.
Although you're not here to ask for contributions, but if somebody felt that this is a way that they wanted to help, they should. What should they do?
They should. I'll tell you what. On our folder, we have a P.O. box. You make the check out if you want to write a check. You make the check out to St. James Lutheran Church in Holland.
Okay.
And on the little memo line, you put for CEO Du Bois County. St. James then processes that and handles that and separates it from their ordinary funding and has this account. Okay. And that's how it's managed.
And I guess if they forget, they can always call the Correction Center.
Hey,
and
we're
you'll
there
get them going in the right
24/7.
direction.
That's correct. That's correct.
Well, I really appreciate both of you coming in. Thank you very much. I'm
Thank
sorry
you
that
for
we were out
having
of time. It sounds like it's a terrific program. Just another way that you can get someone whose life maybe is not going the right way, turned around going the right way, and being good citizens of the community.
Yep.
Right. Right.
Thanks to both of you. We had as our guest Megan Durlauf. She is a CEO board member. That is Churches Embracing Offenders. She is really, her job is a treatment programs facilitator at the DuBois County Correction Center. Also joining us is Bob Vogler. He is the client support coordinator for CEO. Thanks to both of you for coming in.
Thank you very
And
much.
thank you for watching WJTS Inform. We're local people watching local people.